Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, an almanac of garden history, literature, and small botanical joys. I'm Jennifer Ebling, and today is April 28th. In late April, there are still mornings that feel like waiting. Cold soil, bare patches, nothing moving yet. And you stand at the edge of the bed with your coffee and think, not yet. But then one afternoon, you step outside and the whole garden has shifted without you. The forsythia is done, the tulips are leaning, and something you didn't plant is blooming along the fence, like it's been there for years. Everything is reaching, open, and happening at the same time. That's late spring. The ground doesn't wait for you to be ready, and the plan you made in February, the one with the graph paper and the colored pencils and the seed packets lined up on the kitchen table, is already somewhere behind you. Late spring can feel like chaos. It can also feel like you're losing the thread of the thing before you even start pulling. But there's a way through it, and it's simpler than you think. And we'll talk about it at the end of the show. Here's today's garden history. It was on this day in 1630 that the English writer Charles Cotton was born at Beresford Hall in Staffordshire along the River Dove. His father, Charles Sr., was a well-connected royalist who counted poets and writers among his closest friends, including a retired London textile merchant named Isaac Walton. When Charles was 28, his father died, and that was when Charles officially took over Beresford Hall. The estate was a beautiful legacy, but it was also buried in debt. Charles wrote about his inheritance plainly. He said it left him snared in bonds and endless strife, and that, as a result, even the bread on his table tasted of affliction. But then his father's dear friend, Isaac Walton, stepped in. Isaac had known the Cotton family since Charles was a boy, and he wasn't after the land or the estate. He simply cared about Charles like a father would. From the beginning, the two men shared a passion for fishing, and for more than 2 decades, they fished together in the clear water of the Dove River. And their favorite spot was a place the locals called Pike Pool, where a jagged rock rose straight up from the center of the water. In 1674, Charles built a small folly beside the river. It was a little square stone building with a pyramid roof, nestled into the gorge, and so hidden that you had to know it was there to find it. Above the door, Charles carved Latin words, Piscatoribus Sacrum, sacred to all fishermen. And below it, he intertwined 2 sets of initials, CC and IW, Charles Cotton and Isaac Walton, cut into stone. It was in this little place that the two friends would rest after fishing. They'd smoke their pipes and dine on whatever they caught. In 1675, Charles published The Planter's Manual, a guide to raising fruit trees written in what he called a plain and easy style. In that book, Charles wrote about nature with great affection. He called trees his children, and when it came to pruning, he wrote about finding the eye, the living point on a branch where new growth will come. Then, making the cut 3 or 4 fingers above it, sloping the blade away so rain would run off the wound, instead of settling there and rotting new wood. Charles also said that a planter should have a quiet, gentle, and thoughtful spirit, just like his old friend, Isaac Walton. Isaac always looked out for Charles, and when he turned 83, he asked him to write a second part to his wildly famous fishing book, The Complete Angler. It was a huge honor, and Charles was the perfect choice. He loved fishing so much that he wrote all 12 chapters in just 10 days. But 5 years later, in 1681, the debt his father accumulated finally took the house. Charles was forced to sell Beresford Hall. And then, 2 years after that, Isaac died. The home he fought for his whole life to hold, and his dear friend, both gone. In his final years, Charles lived in London, translating the essays of Michel de Montaigne. Surprisingly, inside Montaigne's essays, Charles found something familiar. Montaigne had written about his own great friendship with a man named Etienne de la Boétie, who had died young and left him wrecked with grief. When someone asked Montaigne why he had loved his friend so completely, he answered simply, "Because he was he, and I was I." 2 years after Isaac died, Charles translated those words into English, and he knew exactly what Montaigne meant. Charles Cotton died in 1687, buried in debt. Beresford Hall is gone now too, demolished in 1856. But the small stone fishing house still stands on the Dove River, and the initials remain above the door. CC and IW, still intertwined. And it was on this day in 1950 that the American botanist Oakes Ames died at the age of 75. Oakes was a quiet deserter of a very loud family name. His grandfather built the Union Pacific Railroad and died in disgrace, censured by Congress for the biggest railroad corruption scandal in American history. Oakes' father served as the governor of Massachusetts. The last name Ames was on rail cars, on the State House doors, and in the newspapers. But Oakes chose orchids. Not the showy ones, the difficult ones. The ones that wilt the moment you pick them up. The ones so fragile they turn to mush in a specimen case unless handled with a botanist's expertise and a surgeon's patience. When Oakes arrived at Harvard, he stayed for 50 years. Not in the sunlight, but in the basement. Inside the workplace that he carved out for himself, it smelled sharp and medicinal from the mercuric chloride that he used to keep insects from eating the flowers. Oakes worked not with a knife, but with a needle, teasing apart petals no bigger than a grain of rice. If his hand shook, the flower was gone. Somehow Oakes found the perfect partner in his wife Blanche. As Oakes sat hunched at the microscope, calling out measurements and observations like 3 millimeters notched at the apex, Blanche was there and caught every word with her pen. Regarding his work, Oakes once wrote, "Surely the unrest in my soul made me determined to represent all the types of orchids, which makes me feel a sense of happiness I shall not attempt to describe." In his work with orchids, Oakes moved steadily along, one specimen, then another. An orchid can't feel shame, and it can't feel pride. It just is. And for 50 years, Oakes worked in a room full of them, learning how to be the same way, to just be himself. Not the grandson of a railroad mogul, not the governor's son, just the man with the needle and the flower, and a woman who shared his passion and curiosity for plants. Over his life, Oakes experienced 60,000 orchids, 60,000 contemplations, and 60,000 moments of being nobody's legacy but his own. Oakes Ames died 7 months after his 75th birthday. And while his grandfather left the Ames name draped in something heavy, Oakes left it in a basement at Harvard. Quiet, exact, and finally, at peace. In today's Unearthed Words, we hear from the English poet UA Fanthorpe, who died on this day, April 28th, in 2009. UA didn't publish her first poem until she was nearly 50. Before that, she was a prestigious headmistress, a woman of power and showy authority. But she walked away from it all and became a middle-aged dropout when she took a job as a clerk in a psychiatric hospital. She didn't do it to be noble. She did it because she realized that being a boss with all that responsibility was removing her from the real world and making her deaf to the truth. So she traded in her office for a desk in a hallway where she could be a watcher and give patients a voice. In the hospital, UA saw a different kind of love. Not the cinematic, tragic kind, but the kind that happens in the little moments. And she called those micro-interactions maintenance. To UA, love wasn't a grand announcement. It was the sensible side of care. The quiet, shared, daily struggle to keep a human life from falling apart. In her own world, UA lived this out for 40 years with her partner, Rosie Bailey, in their cottage in Gloucestershire. Outside their home, the garden wasn't formal or showy. It was just tended. Here's an excerpt from UA's poem called Atlas. There are limited ways of saying I love you. Many of them are not even words. One is the steady, rickety, habit-bound performance of maintenance. It's knowing what time and weather are doing to your property. It's the specific trust of the heart that understands the messages of the meter and the gauge. It's the sensible side of love, which knows for the heart to be at ease, the roof must not leak, the garden must be kept, and the taxman satisfied. UA Fanthorpe lived knowing she needed to stay grounded and humble to be happy. She also knew that anything loved needs maintenance. UA Fanthorpe died in hospice care on this day in 2009. She was 79 years old, and her darling Rosie was beside her, watching the gauges on the machines at her bedside, and then going home to tend the garden and doing all the little things UA described in her poem. At the end, UA's own words from another poem were the ones Rosie held in her heart. Nothing makes extinction easy. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Bunny Williams by Bunny Williams. It's Modern Masters Week here on the Daily Gardener, and this week we are highlighting the books of people whose voices shaped how we live with plants today. Bunny is a world-class decorator who isn't afraid to get her boots muddy, and she understands that a garden isn't a painting you look at through a window. It's the first room you enter and the last room you leave. Bunny writes the way she gardens, with practical elegance. She believes in good bones, the clipped hedges and stone walls that give a garden its structure, and then she lets abundance take over. Because she likes the roses to be a little messy and the borders to be loose. Bunny holds on to one other principle. Restraint is not limitation, it's confidence. The confidence to leave a space empty so the light can hit the grass. And the confidence to wait for a plant to grow instead of buying a finished look. In this book, Bunny invites us into her own sunken garden in Connecticut, and she shows us that the most beautiful room we'll ever own doesn't have a ceiling. To Bunny, the garden, that outdoor room, is only successful if it makes you want to stay for one more cup of tea. And finally, here's something sweet to ignite the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day in 1834 that the South African botanist Harry Bolus was born. Professionally, Harry was trained to be a stockbroker, and he made his fortune in diamonds. But Harry is also remembered for the leisure hours he spent in the soil. In 1864, Harry lost his eldest son. Little Harry was only 6 years old when he died. And although Harry was a man of logic and ledgers, he could not account for the weight of his sorrow after losing his boy. It was a balance he simply could not reconcile. In the hollow of that grief, a friend named Francis Guthrie handed Harry a botany book. It wasn't a gift. It was a prescription, something for Harry's hands to do, while the rest of him tried to find a reason to wake up in the morning. That's how Harry started pressing specimens, and he started learning the names of things, the heaths, the orchids, and the small stubborn flowers of the Cape. In 1876, Harry traveled to Kew Gardens in London, where he spent 40 days inside the greatest botanical library in the world. Harry called them his 40 happy days. But on the voyage home, his ship struck a reef, and every specimen, every note, and all the souvenirs of Harry's happy moments at Kew were lost to the sea. Harry stepped onto the shore, looked at the water that took everything, and started again. He had, after all, survived worse. Harry went on to make 28 more crossings. When a parliamentary commission once asked him if he was a botanist, he answered quietly, "I do not call myself a botanist, but I have studied botany in my leisure hours." Over his leisure hours, Harry built the oldest herbarium in South Africa, and he described hundreds of new species. Harry never stopped collecting, but he never stopped being a father who lost his little boy either. Every flower pressed, every crossing made, little Harry was in all of it. As we close the show today, remember, when everything is moving at once and the season feels bigger than your hands, just stop. Ask the smallest question you can. What did I love last year about my garden? What actually made it from the garden to the table? What do I really want from my garden this year? You don't need an entire plan, just one true answer. The garden already knows, and it's been waiting all winter long. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.